Yes, yes, people, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the Australian Open review show. Um, Augustia, this has been the fastest 2 weeks I think we could possibly, say because January's literally about to end. I don't think January's gone by fast, but the Australian Open's gone by very, very fast. Like literally, we just did the Australian Open show the 2 weeks ago, and like, yeah, time flies, and now we've seen that Jannik Sinner has won his second Australian Open title. How are you feeling? And
Yeah, I
things off.
agree with you. I agree with you. Jan has not gone by quick at all. Feels like an eternity, man. New Year's felt like 10 decades ago. That's how long it felt like a century, like literally. It's
But the
felt so.
Australian Open, but the Australian Open took was fast though.
Oh, yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, like, just as that final. Sure, it took 2 and 3 hours, but that was straight sets. It was a comfortable win for Center at the end of the day. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not doing too bad. I think, look, the highlight for the Australian Open for me personally, and for everyone watching the channel, has been the channel. Like the three streams that have been on this channel have been, voila, have been 10 out of 10, chef's kiss, Michelin star, whatever you want to call it. Like it's been beautiful. So we've enjoyed it. It's got the most views on this channel. Like by far, tennis has been the most viewed sport on this channel. So we loved it. Hopefully, this is the beginning, right? This is just the beginning for AN Sports and tennis. So long may it continue, God willing. And yeah, looking forward to it. Look, we're going to be discussing the Ekevin. I know you personally are not the most. Actually, no, forget about that. Ekevin, you're the happiest guy in the world that Jannik Sinner won, right? You must be so thrilled that Jannik Sinner won. You must be like, damn, the GOAT, Jannik Sinner, right? No substance, no nothing. Go on. You're on mute, by the way.
We'll get into that because personally, for me, I don't really like the guy. I'm not a massive fan of Yannick Sinner as a of what he's done. But at the end of the day, all I can say is props to him. Congratulations on the win, and yeah, that's all I can really say to be honest. Congratulations on the win. Whether I think he deserves it or not is a different topic. Whether I think actually, I'm sorry, he does deserve it. Like in terms of the way he played, it was one way
100%.
traffic. It was one way traffic. It was one of the most. It was one of the dullest Australian Open finals that I've ever watched in my life. In
I
terms
think
of
for me the most.
end to end quality, because
Yeah.
it was so one sided. Like you just could not pick out. Like I think it was just the most one. It was just the most one way traffic ever. It was the clearest one. It was the clearest one route traffic ever. So, at the end of the day, I mean, congratulations to Yannick Sinner. I mean, you got the second Australian Open title. Um, really and truly though, bro, it's been an interesting Australian Open because there's been a lot of good results. There's been a lot of there's been some drama. There's been some sadness. Especially with the Djokovic thing that happened. I just want to say, I just want to big up my goat, Djokovic, because I can't start the Australian Open stream without bigging him up first and foremost. The guy battled through an injury, beat one of the best players in the world with an injury. Like, unbelievable turnaround and unbelievable game that was in the quarterfinals. And because it's just how Djokovic, decided to how Djokovic handled the match and how he won the match was the best part.
Match
It was
of
a
the
great.
tournament.
It was probably match of the tournament,
Yeah,
100%
100%.
match of the tournament, 100%, because you got two of the best players in the world, yeah, competing at a very high level, at a very like, I wouldn't say they're the best, they're the number one best players in the world, one of the best players in the world, two two of the world's best. Let's say it. Let's put it that way. Were competing at a very competitive, at a very competitive level. They were competing at a level that that I expected really. And you and I both said that Djokovic in four sets.
We called it.
We both called it, and do you know what? Props to Djokovic. At the end of the day, I gotta big him up though. Battling through an injury, making it all the way to the semifinals. Unfortunately, having to leave the tournament with an injury, having to leave the tournament with a calf or with a calf injury or with a groin. I don't know what it was. A hamstring injury. I can't remember what it was. Hamstring injury or calf injury. I don't know whatever it was. Having to retire.
He tore a muscle. Bottom line, he tore a muscle.
And he had to leave the tournament. He had to retire from the tournament with after one set. That's the first time he's ever done that in his career. But it just tells you how much of a warrior he is. Look at the age of Djokovic first and foremost. Look at the age. He's like 37, 38 years old now. Yeah.
On the verge of 40, so yeah.
On the verge of 40. And the guy has just made it to the Australian Open semifinals at the age of around 37 years old, and he's made to the semifinal of the tournament. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to get to where he did. Yeah. And there's no medal for getting to where you are, but the guy's won the Australian Open the most times. So to leave the way he did, yeah, and to the fans, this is a message to the fans, yeah. Have some fucking shame, you scumbags. Have some fucking shame, yeah. Imagine, yeah, booing a guy because he had to leave the match through an injury. Some might say he's faking it. Well, the scans after the game clearly shows that he wasn't faking it, was he? Mm-hmm. The scans after the game, the pictures that came out weren't fake. They were legit. They were legitimate scans, and it shows that he was injured. One of the probably the most classless fans I've ever seen in my life. This guy gave you years of. This guy gave you years of hell if you were booing him like that. Which I understand it because he's been dominating tennis for a long time. He's been at the top for a very long time, competing with the two greatest. Him and the other two greats, Federer and Nadal. Yeah, competing at the world, competing at the very top of the world. These three, yeah, the world's three greatest players of all time, no doubt about it. Yeah, and how he went out, how the fans gave that him the exit. I'm sorry, you must have been through hell with this guy. If he decided to boo Djokovic. Yeah? He must have given you years of hell. Why would you hate the guy? For leaving the tournament with an injury. 39 years, almost 37 years old or something like that, yeah? Semi-final. Having to leave after the first set because of an injury. And you're all out there hating on him. Hating on Djokovic. Who is the only OG left in the sport? Who's the only OG left in this sport? Andy Murray is gone. Federer is gone. Nadal is gone. Who else is gone? Dominic Thiem had to retire. Wawrinka, he's still thereabouts, but he's not the top of the level anymore.
Djokovic is the only one from that generation that's still active and able to win slams.
Enjoy him while you can.
Yeah.
Enjoy him while you can. The guy is playing on his last legs, in my opinion. And it hurts. It really hurts me to say that he is playing on his last legs. If he's going through injury after injury after injury, I fear his career might be over soon. It breaks my heart because he's my favorite player. He's my favorite player, man. He will. He's gonna go down. He's the greatest of all time for me. For me, he's the greatest of all time. The greatest tennis player I've ever seen in my life. The best tennis player that the most joy he's ever given me. In the last 12 years was watching tennis, competing at the highest, at the pecking order. Competing with the world's greats. And winning so many slams. Like, you just cannot knock the guy off. You just can't knock it off. And people are telling me the new generation is going to make tennis better. In what world? Because Djokovic is still beating these guys. He's still beating these guys. He's still winning against the new gen. At this age, playing through injury after injury after injury. This guy won the Olympics injured, I think. Against Carlos Alcaraz. So, if you want to disrespect the player, give context. Or at least say why you hate him, rather than just booing. Because yes, you paid a lot of your money to go to the games. Yes, you paid a lot of money to go to your games. You were expecting to see a big game, a good game, between Djokovic and Zverev. You were expecting to see a great game. I understand it. But if you are booing Djokovic for leaving because of an injury, you have no shame. You really have no shame. Imagine being 37 years old, playing with an injury, getting to the semifinals of the tournament. You must still be in your prime. He must still be in his prime. He's playing like this. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. And it doesn't hurt me that they're all booing him, but it just tells me what tennis fans are really like in today's day. It just tells me how a lot of tennis fans have really become in today's day. And
Yep.
the integrity of the sport is gone. I'm sorry, it's gone. But I want to know your thoughts on all I've said, because it's been an emotional ride with Djokovic. It's been an emotional time watching Djokovic play tennis. If he decides to leave today, I don't blame him. I really don't blame him. If he decides to retire today, I don't blame him. As much as it breaks my heart, and as much as I love Djokovic, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't. It doesn't upset me one bit. Well, it upsets me in the sense that I love Djokovic and I still want him to continue playing tennis. But for the sake of himself, for the sake of his life, and for the sake of his health and everything like that, like I said, it's better. It's better for it's better. Fucking hell, I can't even talk. I'm so emotional.
Let it out, man.
It's better. It's better. It's better for him to go out on a high, and just that Djokovic Alcaraz match might have just been the highlight. That if it is his last match, if it's his last proper match, he's gone out on a high. He's gone out on a classic match that I think all of us will not forget. All of us should not forget, because he's an idol to so many. He's an idol to me. He's an idol to I think anyone that's coming that's up and coming. Zverev has spoken out. Sabalenka has spoken out. That they can all speak to Djokovic whenever they need something. They treat him like a role model. Tennis is going to lose someone massive if he goes. And I'm telling you right now, the ratings are going to drop big time when Djokovic goes. When Djokovic decides to retire, the tennis ratings are going to drop massively. Massively. Because who do you look at right now and say that this guy can be a massive name in the near at least 2 or 3 sentences below Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal? Because who do you look at today and say that they're gonna be there or thereabouts with
The only two Ekevin would be the Sinner Alcaraz rivalry, which, by the
That's
way,
good.
every single time they step out on court, they are magnificent. They are like really
Yeah.
a generational rivalry. They are exceptional. Their matches are iconic, memorable, and unforgettable. So I agree with you completely. But then again, Ekevin, I agree. Everything apart from that, it isn't as compelling because some would say, hey, we have the Sinner Alcaraz rivalry. So tennis's viewership will still be quite solid, which, again, I'm not saying tennis will decline. Its audience is quite global. As a matter of fact, I think if you talk about sports and sporting demographic, tennis is probably second behind football. Because if you talk about sports that have more viewership than tennis, i.e., cricket, NBA, and NFL, their viewership is very disproportionate, as in their viewers are very skewed to one country, India or America, the overwhelming majority of their viewers. So tennis is very global. So although I agree that, yes, there is a Sinner and Alcaraz rivalry that will revitalize and reclaim a lot of young and old fans back into the sport, I do personally think that, yeah, when they're not playing each other, what's the incentive in watching them if they aren't as appealing or the narrative isn't as, compelling or competitive as the Djokovic, Federer, Nadal trio? So I agree with you. And quickly on Djokovic, everything you said, I could think, yeah, understandable. 100% understandable and reasonable. It's hard to disagree with everything you said here. I think it's a shame that the fans booed. Look, whenever there's a conflict or a dispute, I try and understand both perspectives as much as I can. I think most fans probably booed, if I'm being generous, because they're like, hey, we paid our money's worth. We wanted to watch a proper fight, a proper semifinal between world number 2 and the King of Melbourne. So that's why they booed it. And they were like, hang on a minute, if Djokovic could play the first set, why couldn't he just finish it off? So that's understandable. But at the same time, if you talk about from a motives and incentive standpoint, why would Novak Djokovic willingly pull out of a match because he lost the first set? Historically and even recently, every single time he loses the first set, Ekevin, or almost every single time, right? He loses the first set, except Sinner last year, he comes back. Am I not mistaken? Every single Australian Open, the guy comes back from the dead. So Djokovic, at this stage in his career, this was his last best chance. And of course, I'm not saying he's never going to win a Grand Slam. He will have opportunities, I'm sure. But he's never going to be this fit. He's never going to be this fresh at the beginning of the season. And he's never going to have the opportunity where one of the two dominant forces are out. So, and Sinner was also struggling a bit with a hamstring injury. So, I mean, again, when it comes to Novak Djokovic, yeah, to boo him, I think it's very premature, and it's not classy at all. It's petulant. That's what it is. And Djokovic, the fact that he had to post his scan is ridiculous. He doesn't know anything. He is the sport's leading sportsman. He is the guy, the winningest athlete in tennis history, bar none, male and female. He's won the most slams. He's the most weeks at world number 1. He has the most masters. He's won every single masters, not just once, but twice. Nobody's won it even once. He's won every single major trophy. Nobody's won every single major trophy. Djokovic is far above the rest. It's not even close. He doesn't know anybody in explanation. And the fact is, he's done it when, this is coming from someone who is a massive Roger Federer fan. I showed this in my last stream with Ekevin on this channel. I'll just show it again real quick. I have a Roger Federer poster on my wall because he's my favorite tennis player ever. But I can acknowledge that Djokovic is an inspiration because he subverted the status quo in sports better than anybody else ever has. That's a fact. So Djokovic doesn't know anything. For him to post it, that's such a sad indictment of the whole tennis community, the international tennis community. And also, now Djokovic would never want to skip an opportunity to win a slam. Djokovic's only currency is winning. Djokovic only cares about winning. He doesn't care how it's done. He doesn't care about playing the most elegant, extraordinary, mesmerizing set of tennis, like Federer, for example. He just wants to win. So Djokovic would never pull out if he didn't think he could win. So to anyone who went to the match in Melbourne, I know it's a shame. I know it's disappointing because you want your money's worth. But at the same time, you have to remember, these athletes, as much as Djokovic is the greatest of all time, at the end of the day, he's human. Nobody beats Father Time. And if he's going to pull out, and if you know just anything, an iota, 1% of his history, you would know Djokovic is not willingly forfeiting a match. Why would he forfeit a match when he's 2 matches, 6 sets away from winning his 25th Grand Slam? Why would he do that? It's not logical. So it's a shame, but I think the most appropriate reaction we can do is hope that Djokovic recovers. And as Ekevin said very wisely and shrewdly, hopefully he recovers and has the opportunity to compete at a semi-decent level at the French, at Wimbledon, and at the US Open. So that's what we hope.
I think this might be Djokovic's last ever Australian Open, though.
Yep.
I think this one's his last ever one. You don't deserve Djokovic after what you've just done to him, or after what you've just said. The message that you've kind of given him. I think this is his last Australian Open. You guys don't deserve him. The fans that booed him, you don't deserve him. The way he walked out was a sign of a champion. He's more of a champion than Jannik Sinner. I'll even say that. He is. Imagine having to play through that injury. Being that fit at this age, a true champion. He's a true champion. Stuck to his values, never ever backed down. Never ever betrayed his own values. Never ever, never took a step down. It was always a step up for Djokovic. Kept on fighting. He's a champion. Still is a champion. Always will be a champion. This for me should be his last Australian Open. It should be. You don't deserve him after the message you sent to him. You don't deserve him after the message you sent him after that game. I'm sorry. And I'm hoping to see him at French Open. Hoping to see him at Wimbledon and US Open this year. See where it takes him. And yeah, we've got to give context and give credit where it's due. Even if you don't like Djokovic, you need to put sometimes you need to have a show level of respect. That the guy has given so much of his life, he's dedicated so much of his life to the sport. Shout out Alex Zverev, man. The comments he made after that one set with Djokovic, you've got to give the class and respect to him. Even if you don't like Zverev, even if you're not a massive fan of Zverev, the comments he made after the semifinal game was such a good gesture. And commiserations to Alex Zverev after the final, because it was humiliating for him, but at the same time, he's given everything this tournament. And you can't really fault him. So at the end of the day, I reckon he'll win a Grand Slam one day. He will win a Grand Slam one day. It's only a matter of time. And it's got to pick him up. And any last thoughts on Djokovic before we move on?
Yeah, I just want to add, if this is the end, again, Ekevin and I, for those who have been watching, we've done multiple shows across the Open, and we've given Djokovic extensive tributes. Actually, our first show, the preview show, we spent 30 minutes talking about Djokovic and his legacy, not only in tennis, but in sport, holistically. So, bottom line, I would say for Djokovic, if this is the end, thank you. Because you are not a once in a generation, but a once in a lifetime athlete. We will never, ever see someone achieve the success you had at the Australian Open, double-digit Australian Open titles. That is unfathomable. That is archaic. That's from a video game. But not only the double-digit titles, not just the success, but how he did it, the stances he took, as Ekman said, subverting the status quo, standing on principle, supporting his own people, prioritizing his own people before the interests of those, whether from a profit motive or those who are in power. So kudos to Djokovic completely, because he was very similar to many people in high office today. He was done and dusted at the peak of the COVID pandemic. He was belittled. He was demonized. He was propagandized. He was effectively alienated, abused, and isolated. He was even censored by many outlets at the peak of COVID when he refused to take the COVID vaccine. And as we saw in Australia or even in the States, they didn't admit him. They didn't accept him. They didn't welcome him into their tournaments because he didn't oblige with their status quo. And despite at that time, when the big three, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, were at a heads, where they were basically, I think they were tied at 20 slams at that time point. So for Djokovic, everything he's worked for in his career to basically topple this love affair duopoly of Roger and Rafa was basically put at risk. He had to prioritize. I mean, is he going to stand on principle, or is he going to risk his life for the sake of sport? He stood on principle, and not only did he protect his life, but also he protected his sport. So kudos to Djokovic. It has been an absolute pleasure to watch you. He is really one of one. And that whole match against Carlos Alcaraz, as Novak said, is one of his greatest matches in Australian Open history. To do it not only with a torn muscle, even if he didn't have the torn muscle, the fact is he was so calm, composed, collected, resolute from the back of the court. He was the Great Wall of Serbia. Very little mistakes. His serving was unbelievable. And some of his returns were vintage Novak. He is the greatest returner of all time. And his returns were exceptional. They were state of the art. They were something that we've never seen before and perhaps we'll never ever see from somebody else. So it's been an absolute honor, Djokovic. You have been a story, and the Australian Open has been your story for the longest time. So hopefully he can compete one more time at Kevin. But as you said here, why would he compete one more time? What is the motive and incentive? Because he's so good that he doesn't have anything to prove. He doesn't have anything numerically to achieve. He's won the most Aussie Open titles. He's won the most Aussie Open titles consecutively. He's beaten everyone there has to be beaten at the Australian Open. He's conquered Melbourne like nobody ever has. So it's almost like, as much as that was a bittersweet farewell, because he wasn't able to finish that match, it's almost like the right time to go off, because 38-year-old Djokovic, at the end of his career, was able to beat the face of the next generation, Carlos Alcaraz, despite having a torn hamstring. So it's everything. That match says everything you need to know about Djokovic. It's a shame, but hopefully, in fact, not hopefully, we're already seeing a lot of people respect and revel in his success. So it's nice to see Djokovic finally getting the plaudits he deserves. And I'm sure over time, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I'm sure all the Aussie fans, Ekevin, the ones, that kind of disrespected him, they'll come to realize it soon. So it's a shame Djokovic is gone, but I hope we still have a couple more slams of him at the very least. Okay, while Ekevin is gone, I guess I can quickly take initiative and lead, and I can say I'm sure if Ekevin, was here, he'd move us into the next part of the show, which is the thing we should actually be talking about. Jannik Sinner winning his third.
Sorry.
Winning his. Yeah, sorry. I was just talking about Sinner winning his third major title, which Ekevin, I can briefly say, I know you and I have differing opinions on Sinner, but wow. I'll let you take the floor on this before me, but I'm going to make one bold and big claim here. I think this performance from Jannik Sinner was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in a Grand Slam final, period. The fact is, in the first set, Sasha Zverev served 81% from his first serve. 81%. If 99.9% of tennis players serve at that high of a percent, even just 70%, they're going to win that set comfortably.
I'll tell you
Sasha did. And Sinner took control of that set, and then in the second set, the pressure points, he played them precisely and perfectly. And then in the third set, he barely made any unforced errors. His shot making, his winners were out of this world. The fact is, Jannik Sinner, if you look at Ekevin from the Australian Open last year when he won his first slam, up until the Australian Open this year, he has been on hard courts, not just the best player on hard courts, but he's been the best server and the best return on hard court. So at the moment, this Jannik Sinner run of matches on hard courts only mirrors Roger Federer in his peak, objectively, which is just remarkable. Just remarkable. Ekevin, take the floor is yours.
Look, sorry about the people. I was just listening. I just wanted to, cool my mind for a bit and just realize the fact that Djokovic might just be gone. I don't know if he'll retire, but if he does, it'll be so hard to process the fact that he's not going to be competing at the top anymore. I'm not creating speculation. I'm not trying to create, rumors that Djokovic is going to retire. I don't know anything about it, but there's been hints of retirement, and I'm worried that the end is near. So, listen, at the end of the day, Jannik Sinner, look, congratulations to him. One-way traffic performance. one-way traffic. The guy just performed very, very well, and he deserved to win the whole thing. And look, what I think of him as a tennis player and what he's done, I'm all about integrity, right? And I'm all about in fairness, and justice, because there's been tennis players who have been punished, and there's been tennis players who have gotten away with it. And I feel like for me, if you're gonna punish those, you have to. If you've already punished those, right? But let certain others off, make it even, make it fair. It's a fair game. It's a fair sport. At the end of the day, it's about respect and the integrity of tennis, because tennis is the ratings of tennis for me will go down eventually. And look, there's only so much we can do as fans to voice our opinions on such and such. For me, I think we need to talk about. I just think we need to be fair to everyone else. If you're gonna say, oh, but Iga Swiatek got this, Simona Halep got this, Jannik Sinner took this, but it's not performance enhancing and shit like that. Look, certain things might be true, certain things might not be true, but one thing's for sure is that he's failed two tests, right? I'm not gonna say the guy shouldn't ever play tennis again. That's not what I'm trying to say. At least give a suspension. At least hand out something that's fair, because there's been others who have got their punishment, whilst others get away with it. So, like I said, I'm all about fairness. I'm all about integrity, and tennis just needs to step it up. Tennis just needs to bring it back, because I'm seeing a lot of ex-players, ex-professionals come out and say that they're concerned by the lack of, good decision making in tennis now. And they're saying that the sport we love, they're saying that the sport it's not the same as before, obviously. So, yeah, that's all I really got to say on the Jannik Sinner part. When I guess let's come back, we're gonna move on to
Right in time. Sorry about that.
No, I was
Dealing
just
with I heard. Yeah, I was dealing with a pretty, as you know, I in a pretty urgent situation at the moment here.
that's all right.
But I heard you. Yeah, I'll come back in a few minutes. Okay, Kevin?
Yeah, no worries. All good, man. All good. Yeah, why you happy? Oh, man. Sorry, can't even talk, man. I'm stuttering. While he's at it, make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, because there'll be a lot more tennis streams throughout the entire year. As you know, we've introduced tennis in sports, and obviously tennis has been something I love for a long time. I've loved watching Djokovic. I've loved watching, Federer and Nadal. And it's about time, I get to talk about it, because me and Augusti used to go back and forth and chat about tennis and stuff like that. So now we actually get to talk about it, debate it properly on live. So if you want to see more of the shows, you want to see more of tennis, make sure you guys tune in. Make sure you guys keep your notifications on, and make sure you guys subscribe. It helps out the channel, helps out the algorithm, and if you can, 120 subs before the end of January would be nice. So just for everyone of you watching, the link is right there. Click that and subscribe. But we're gonna move on to the best moments of the tournament. So we're gonna talk about the best moments that have happened this year. Personally, for me, it's seeing the Thai guy, our fellow countryman, compete against Daniel Medvedev, going up 2-1. Unfortunately, falling short, but it was a very memorable game for him, possibly, and hopefully he builds on from this. And I would love to see him compete again at the French Open, at Wimbledon, and more. I want to see him compete for Thailand, because obviously, as me, I'm from Thailand, and I would love to see fellow countrymen, compete, have some pride. Show the country that you're here to take over for the country. You're here to take one for the team, because he's the only. I think he's right now. He's the only men's singles player that's tied in the tournament on the tour. So, gotta give my support. Gotta give my respects to how he's performed in that match alone, even if he lost. And sometimes you learn from experience, and I'm sure this guy will definitely bounce back. And the experience will definitely be key, because he played a top player. Daniel Medvedev is a top player. The experience is right there. Some of the comments that Daniel Medvedev made about him was funny, was very, very funny. So I'm not gonna get into that, but they were something that it was kind of funny to listen to, and I think it was more like a joke, like it was an indirect praise from Daniel Medvedev, and if he's giving his props to the Thai guy, then I think we all should. I think we all should. Big up, bro. Big up, man. And I guess continue from where I said.
I am back. I'm so sorry. Situation should be all good, Ekevin.
All good.
That person should be okay. Anyways, so on Jannik Sinner, well, you and I have differing opinions on this, because I think, sure, Sinner did take an illegal substance, which absolutely he deserved punishment for, intentional or unintentional. He does deserve to be, held accountable for. However, in the context of his achievements, I think it's one thing you have to weigh. How much did that substance really impact his results and success? And if you look into the science, according to every single article I read, it didn't really affect him. It didn't really impact his performance. So bottom line here is, we can say, hey, Sinner took an illegal substance, so he should be, his achievements should be diminished. But no, there is no basis for that logically. And I think all the success he has achieved, 50 wins, 47 wins since becoming the world number one last year, winning almost every single hardcourt match, winning all the major hardcourt events, from the Australian Open to the US Open to the Tour Finals and this Australian Open as well, dominating Djokovic in the Australian Open semifinal, something nobody has ever done in the history of the competition, something nobody will ever do. Comfortably winning this final as well against an Alex Zverev who was semi-decent in the first set of the match. Jannik Sinner thoroughly deserved to win this tournament. He was unplayable, untouchable. And we spoke about this at the beginning of the tournament. And we don't have to be Einstein or Notre Dame or a religious preacher to see this. But Jannik Sinner was always a shoo-in to make the final. Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, you and I both had Sinner making the final from minute one in our pre stream. The difference is we both said if Djokovic was fit, Djokovic would win. And I actually, you know what? You can call me stingy. You can call me stubborn, but I will stand by that opinion. I do firmly believe if Djokovic was 100% fit, he would have won the Australian Open this year. Because the fact that with the muscle tear, he played to a level which allowed him to beat Carlos Alcaraz, who I think is the best player of this generation. Maybe not on hard court, but still mentally, to beat someone who is one of the only two competitors at a parallel level mentally is nuts. So if Djokovic was fit, he would have beat Zverev, and I'm sure he would have beat Sinner because he was serving pretty well. His returns were vintage in that game against Alcaraz. The only thing that was struggling was his conditioning. And of course, age is a factor, I agree. But had he not had that muscle tear, he could have been more free and relaxed in his movement. And also, the reason Djokovic is so dominant and devastating at the beginning of the season is because the Australian Open is where the players that are the best conditioned, mentally and physically, that's who produce the best. And Djokovic, historically, his preseason and coming into the AO, he is far more well-prepared than someone like an Alcaraz, for example, who has struggled. There's a reason Alcaraz has not won the Australian Open yet and lost to the likes of Berrettini or Zverev or Djokovic, is because he's not as conditioned as a Djokovic. So I firmly believe Djokovic would have won this AO. I will stand by that. I think he would have won this AO Djokovic, but he didn't. And Jannik Sinner ended up winning it, and he deserved it because, man, frankly speaking, that guy is, I have never seen a performance this, dominant in the last year and a half, a stretch on hard court in a long time maybe since Djokovic in the early 2010s, that is this dominant.
Mind
Because the
you,
guy is winning gone.
mind you, he's the third guy in tennis history to win a final to win a Grand Slam final without facing a break point.
Yeah, it's a very good statistic here. You're absolutely right. I think he's third to Nadal and Federer. Nadal at the French Open once, and Federer.
Wimbledon.
Yeah, Federer must be Federer at Wimbledon.
And
one of against
Nadal,
Philippoussis.
Nadal was at the French Open or was the U.S. Open? I can't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So it was Federer against Philippoussis, his first Grand Slam, and Nadal against Kevin Anderson in 2017 in his comeback U.S. Open win. So absolutely, Kevin, that's W knowledge for us, for both of us here. I guess we can safely say for those watching the last stream, Ekevin and I, world number 1, world number 2, Ekevin, right? Yeah. He comes back up from world number 69, no pun intended, as Cam put him there. So,
what were you saying before I interrupted you? I didn't mean to interrupt you, by the way. What were you
saying?
Of
course. I was just saying that Sinner eats everyone for dinner. That's a really bad pun. That's a really bad pun.
No, it rhymes well, but yeah.
Yeah. So he's and he's the thinner on. Okay, no, I'm not going into this. He deserved to win because he's just the best player in the world. I mean, the fact is, objectively, he's the best server and returner on hard courts in the last year. I don't know many, if anybody, in tennis history in the Open era that can claim that they're the best on both ends of the court on the surface. Like, I don't like Sinner is breaking every single record humanly possible. So kudos to Sinner. Unfortunate that he has that stigma plagued on him, which of course, irresponsibility, fine. Irresponsibility, indecisiveness, whatever you want to say. And I agree. But all the criticism somebody should have about the whole doping scandal, I don't think it should be deflected on Jannik Sinner and his team. It should more be deflected on the ATP and their disproportionate standards of application. Kyrgios spoke about this. I think Djokovic spoke about this as well. So the ATP needs fixing. And also, it's inherently an organization that's very elitist and corrupt. So that also, yeah. But bottom line here, Ekevin, is I believe that Jannik Sinner is the best player in the world right now, by far. And any single time he steps on a hard court, I would make him the favorite to win that match.
Well, what was your best moment of the tournament? As I reiterated and I elaborated on, I said that the Thai guy going up 2-1, our fellow countryman going up 2-1 against one of the best players in the world, Daniel Medvedev. And I said the experience will be there. He's gained enough experience. I'm glad to see him show some pride and lead Thailand, being the only men's singles Thai player to play in the tournament and to compete on the tour. And I would like to see him compete again in the future. I would love to see him compete again. I would love to see him, be back at back competing in the next tournament. So yeah, big up to him. Like I said, that was my moment of the tournament for me, going up 2-1 against one of the best players in the world, Daniel Medvedev. What's your best moment?
That's a very nice moment. I like that because that's not a popular pick. So I respect that a lot. I mean, that's a great shout. Now I'm just going to contradict myself. I'm going to pick something that's actually popular. I mentioned this earlier. It's the Djokovic-Alcaraz match.
Same. I think that's the match of the tournament. But I'm talking about like moment.
So yeah, exactly. I would say that moment when Djokovic won, you could see the way he expressed himself. He let everything go. Did you see his reaction? The way he looked at his bench, Andy Murray, everyone on his bench. It was like relief, but also happiness combined in one on steroids.
If Djokovic does decide to, continue, if Djokovic does decide to, not decide to, if Djokovic does proceed without injury in the near future this year, I hope Andy Murray is his coach to be continued, because I loved the Djokovic Murray combo in this year.
Oh, 100%. It's a shame Murray couldn't get his first Australian Open title, but if anyone's to blame for that, it's our guest from last time, Cameron Vaziri, who was talking the biggest shit about Andy Murray all stream. Do you not remember this? All stream he was going on bringing up Andy Murray's best highlights from the past, when it had nothing to do with Andy Murray's or this Australian Open tournament. So Cam, if you're watching, which I'm mentioning your name because I want to know if you're watching. I'm putting you on the spot, Cam. Nah, man, you are the reason. You're the jinx. You're the jinx of Murray and Djokovic. Just kidding. No, yeah, I mean, look, I think it would be nice if Djokovic and Murray reunited, because hopefully they do achieve success together. A feel-good story. That's what it would be. But I don't know. It didn't seem like they were very confident, let alone certain, that they'd be continuing their partnership together. It really depends on Djokovic, what his objectives are. I think he will retire soon, though, Djokovic. That's just because, like I said, what is the incentive for him to continue to participate? At this stage of his life, would he rather spend the most of his year with his kids? When they're young, he can install values and be there for them, or be a tennis player and win more slams, but it doesn't really, give him the same satisfaction as it used to. I think spending time with his kids and his wife would probably be more beneficial to him.
You mentioned kid. You mentioned kid. His son Stefan, stayed up until 1 a.m. just to support him against Alcaraz.
True.
Or that. Crazy, man. And, props to him, props to his family, and I just wish him all the best. If he does decide to retire today, like I said, it will hurt me, but I'll understand it. But what else am I missing? What other word am I missing?
We've covered most of it, right? There's not much more to cover, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been a very good Grand Slam in the sense of moments. The final was underwhelming, as you said. It's very underwhelming here. But it in terms of quality, it was quite a high quality final because Sinner was sensational. That's it, Kevin. I think at the end of the day, it's Djokovic who says goodbye to Melbourne. The GOAT bows out of Melbourne, and Sinner is superior to the rest.
No, I hear it. Any more awards am I missing? Match, we already gave it to Djokovic Alcaraz quarterfinal match. That's the match of the tournament for me. I think that's all.
Yeah.
And we pretty much covered everything.
I agree.
I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Absolutely.
Make sure you guys make sure you guys like and share and subscribe, because like I said, 120 subs for the end of January would be lovely. And I know you guys. I know most of you are watching that are from Twitter, so make sure you guys click that quote tweet. The link is right there, and click subscribe, click like, and share, and all that good stuff. But yeah, guys, thank you for coming on again, bro, and thank you for your stuff about tennis. And I'll definitely see you on the next show.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I think it's been a pleasure. Some of my favorite streams ever, especially the two that we did on this Open. Yeah. So many iconic moments. I'd recommend anyone watch them back. If you want to laugh to some dead jokes. Honestly, our last streams are more comedy than actually like sport. But
you're right.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I'm sure Kevin will be back together for F1.
Yeah.
United as well. And then tennis as well. Yeah, tennis season's underway. So we'll be back for sure.
Yeah. United won today, so I'll happily take the result as well. So yeah, all's good. And yeah, we're going to close it out here, people. Like, share, subscribe. Peace. Have a good evening. Take care.